G'day guys, a quick, I say quick and it's never quick, but a quick preview of tomorrow's racing kick-off with Rosehill. Run through that as quick as I can, probably just choose a few races out of Flemington to go through. I won't even look at some of them, it's just a bit tough and a bit too tough for me. So, Rosehill, race 1, 2-year-olds, interesting race for a small field. Not a lot of interest from a betting perspective for mine, but just because the queries are a bit strong. This Zebra Cape comes up from Melbourne. It's had the 2 starts in Adelaide though, trained by David Hayes it's now in the Randwick stable according to this. 2 really slow tempos and overcome them, 2 very small fields. Only a 4-horse and 3 horses, so very difficult to really get any sort of gauge on this horse's bottom. Also jumping now from 1,000 to 1,200, so extremely difficult to work out sort of where its level is. It's obviously got ability, it's overcome slow tempos. You expect it could possibly run 1,200 out strongly, but now it's got to travel and do these things, and even gate 1's a little bit interesting, whether it gets crossed or kicks up. It's not ideal. So the answer to pumpkin for number 1, it's got ability. Number 2's got the blinkers on. Gia ran quite well in its debut race at Canterbury behind in Trepidatio. Didn't really look too comfortable on the inside there. I don't mind that it's got the blinkers on and can improve. Exhilarates is having its first start. It's trialled up okay, trialled up well. It's got a bit of pace. Kiamichi, it's trialled like it wants, probably a little bit further ground, and it's probably the one that does look to me like 1,200 on debut won't be an issue. Oh, so Hot's had a couple of runs. It's not completely out of the race, I don't think, by any means. I don't think it's a straightforward race. It's a very weird one. I'd say that Accelerates to me is the one that is extremely short, over 1,200 metres for its debut run. I'd probably nearly look to risk it just simply because of that, and happy to bet around it. I know Kiamichi is also in at Newcastle as well, so it'll be interesting to see which way it goes. It's just a yuck race for me. I could have an absolute tiny bet on Chia and Kiamichi and nearly even Oso Hot, or as you know, the opposite lay, the 2 favourites, and hope for a split. Maybe even better again, make Zebra Cape a break square, make Accelerate your loss, and the other 3 horses a win. Race 2. Scratchings of Wagner and Etana here. We'll take them out. We'll take Wagner out. Take Etana out. Royal Celebration's obviously a horse I've got plenty of time for now. Draws gate 2, which looks ideal. Can sort of pop out there, let the 2 cross him. I doubt that anything else will go forward. Probably end up 1 out, 1 back. Expecting Baller to go straight to the front. Coterie to probably kick up and either be behind it or eventually sit outside it. I can't see Singing Sand putting on too much pressure. It's a chance they might roll forward with only 53 on its back and Rachel King, but expecting Coterie to be the closest runner to Baller, who gets out and probably free rolls a bit with no weight on its back. Interesting horse, Baller. It was quite a good win its first start, and a horse came out at Hawkesbury on Thursday and was well backed and valiant. And ran well out of that race. There's a couple of horses running at Newcastle today that came out of that race. It's probably the danger, I think. It's quite an interesting horse that could probably get out there and give something to chase. Obviously, Royal Celebration's got to give it a significant amount of weight. I'm not exactly sure what weight this horse will carry. So it's got 52.5 with a 3 kilo allowance. Robbie Dolan, I don't know how light he can ride, but he'll give this horse something to chase. I thought Coterie was well and truly the horse under the odds in the race. It's coming out of 2 very ordinary provincial races, rising in distance, probably ends up in an awkward little spot with some nice enough horses in this race. I thought Phone Me's win was extremely impressive. Obviously only a Yarra Valley win. The time wasn't great, but it was impressive to the eye, and what it did late when it sort of burst into the clear and ran away from them. I can't knock it. Carl's coming back from Melbourne. Singing Sand won really well against a slow tempo first up and looks to have come back an improved horse. I thought Coteries' wins have been fairly solid. It's been outside the leader and did some work first up, but that was in a sort of a 3-year-old Colts and Geldings maiden, and then an open class 1 at Gosford. So obviously rising in grade here. No, the times weren't great on either occasion. Definitely had its chance at second start. Its first up was obviously a very good win, so it really needs to find another level, I think, even though it's only been beaten by Royal Celebrity in its previous preparation. So it's got form around, the Autumn Sun a couple of races and Royal Celebrity. I just thought he needs to find a new level to really line up with his price here. So $4.60 second favourite. Royal Celebration, clearly the horse to beat. I think it's a very nice horse, but I just think that with Baller in the race, it makes it awkward. You don't know how fast it's going to go. It could really upset the pattern of the race, which could play into the hands of Singing Sands and Phone Me, or Baller could just keep running with the lightweight if it sort of runs the race to suit itself, as in sort of takes the front slowly, or builds from the sort of 800 and makes it awkward for the rest of the runners. I think that's how I'd be sort of trying to ride the race to suit myself if I got a few cheap sectionals early. Tricky race staying out. Race 3. Highway Handicap. Pretty tough to line these up, I've found. Potent Forces first up for 600 days. It's trialled up quite well. I think it's had 3 trials. Luan, 28 days between runs, always spaced. It gets back from an inside draw and needs luck. Sea Bloom's a good horse for 7 weeks between runs, trialled up quite well since its last run, and even though it's going to get back here, you'd expect it to run positively. Sugar Dance will be right up on the speed. It was a good comeback effort at was it Bathurst first up? I think it was. It sat up on the speed there and strong the line in fast time, so it ran well, only beaten by Tony's Reward there, who had a fair fitness edge on it. Should only improve off a 174-day break there. Tristan the Angel probably gets back midfieldish. Nice horse. It's fairly consistent, always runs on. Good effort last start. Probably had enough late, but that was entitled to. Ave drops rapidly in distance, minus 400 metres since its last run a couple of weeks ago. It looked the winner there until late and just didn't run the trip, so you'd expect it to run well. Only got the 53.5 on its back. Drops 1.5 kilos on that run, and draws ideally to sort of settle midfield and have clean air. Krillion's racing well, eternally up in grade here, and really looks very short to me, $6.50. On your Rosie's racing extremely well. I would add those two much closer together in the market. I've got sort of 1 mark 12, 1 mark 16. So for one to be 6 and one to be 23, I think there's a big discrepancy there. Luciella Bell probably the only other winning chance down the bottom. I don't think it really runs 1400 out too strongly. So looking up the top, I really think it's kind of between Sea Bloom, Sugar Dance, Tristan the Angel, Ave. I think they're the 4. Not much between them. Honestly, Sea Bloom's probably going to be giving the biggest start, so you'd have it marginally behind the other 3, and that's kind of how the betting's got it. So I can't really find anything I want to back. If I had to pull the trigger, it would be on Ave and one of Sugar Dance and Tristan the Angel, but I probably won't be pulling the trigger, so I don't have to. Race 4. Sexy Eyes 2's on. Not a race of too many surprises. Velocity's racing okay. Doesn't really hit the line like a horse that's going to upset Sexy Eyes. I like it easy. Probably went a little bit too slow in front last start. If it runs a more consistent sectional race, it can probably be the one to run down, but not super confident in that. And Aurora Rose could upset the party. It was ridden out with intent in its latest trial and could easily try and take the front here, and that upsets I Like It Easy and probably plays into the hands of Sexy Eyes. 2's on, not interested, but certainly the horse to beat. Sexy Eyes, race 5. Good tempo here in race 5. Looks some good speed from out wide, if I can find the map. Out wide here, sort of Kanachi reflectivity. Then you've got Butteroo Knight, who probably wants to take a sit. Man of Peace gets a senior rider and probably takes a sit. Then you've got Fuel booting up from the inside, and then the likes of Guitar and Generalissimo looking for a spot. Chasseur probably gets forced back. Obviously, a good effort, Chasseur first up from a long break. Whether that's 2 weeks sort of since then, does it bounce off that? Does it come up flat? I can't come into It's a 2-to-1 chasseur, even though I do think it's one of the horses that'll be super strong late. Quite a tricky race. Gambler's Blues draws the gate to suck up on the fence, but 60.5 and 1400 metres first up's not easy off a 315-day break. I think Generalissimo will run a really solid race if it finds a spot. It's a big if, because it's obviously drawn 12 of 12, and but I thought it ran well first up and can certainly build off that. Reflectivity's trialled up well, does get a lot of pressure here and probably short enough. So Your Win, I thought, could run quite well. It was sort of ridden a bit too close first up last time in and battled late, but improved second up. And I thought if it was ridden colder here, it could certainly run a race at $14. I thought Ombudsman trialled up well enough to run a race ridden cold here. Gatan was pretty lucky, I thought, to get away with that race last start. It draws awkwardly here, and I think there's a few more dangerous runners in this race than there was last time. I think it'll get found out. Turnberry is an on-pacer that's probably going to need this 122 days since, and doesn't really have the turn of foot to put these away, considering the tempo up front. Fuel drawn very awkwardly and faces a tough task, 28 days between runs up in distance. Man of Peace, I thought, would run well. I thought it was really barbecued last start by the rider, and the senior rider going on is a really good, strong positive. Not a horse that I'm that confident about in life, but it does find the right run here and has a nice setup. I can't knock it at $9. And Butteroo Knight, again, another horse that you probably want to find in a race where it's going to dictate the tempo, but won't get that here. 33-1, I definitely don't want to be against it. There's no doubt about that. So, tough little race. I think there's some value in probably Generalissimo's price at $12. I think So You Win and Ombudsman are the other two knockout chances, but that's all they are, and Man of Peace around $9 as well. No confidence in this race. Chasseur can run well, but I'd be watching betting close to the jump with it just to see how it's come through. That last run's probably your best guide. Race 6, Skyboy, a dominant favourite, has been solidly backed into even money. 225 is all it really was, so it's not been a huge go as yet, but you can't really see it getting out too far. Once it's got to the mile, 2 runs back. Really dominant there in fast time, again dominant in fast time, sitting outside the leader in what looked a leisurely run race, but they actually sort of ran along there, and this horse was dominant again. The map says that it's going to get a similar run, sort of Red Knot, Skyboy. There might be one or two come across, but you can only see it settling, one off the fence or behind the leader in the first 4 or 5, and gets its chance. Only 60 kilos, shouldn't slow it down. It's a big, strong horse. Only goes up to 2.5 kilos for its last start win. Ticks every box really, Skyboy here. So I thought Solo Mission ran okay last start and can certainly build again. Third up, should be near peaking 2,000. After having a 2,000 metre run last start, it can run well. I thought Mereview's run was great last start. I thought it was ridden way too aggressively early and really stuck on well, considering everything that happened in that race. And it did chase from a long way out. Obviously rises significantly in distance off a 7-day break, but I thought its effort was really good, and it's probably the danger to Skyboy. Just needs a bit of luck from that wide draw early. I don't know whether they press forward or what they do. Maybe we'll get a bit of a change of tactics update in the morning. The stable's usually pretty good with that, especially when they've got a significant amount of runners in a race like they do here. I think he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, so keep your ears open and alert for that. Mark 2 was good first up at Gosford, but too bad to be true last start. Really does need to improve. Gambletown doesn't win out of turn. Zaz is up in grade off an average effort and doesn't win out of turn. Equipped, you're sort of waiting for it to show more. I thought Red Knot had run a cheeky race from up in front here, 56 kilos on its back and a soft lead. It's got to run 2,000 metres out, but it's not impossible, and I thought 20-1's probably fair enough. Miss Shanty's racing well, sort of broke through last up. It did find the right race. Drawn awkwardly, again, tactics interesting. If they send it forward, it can probably whack away, but not a horse that I can see winning. Nick O'Shea's got to rise drastically in grade and distance, and I can't find it. Highway's a horse of interest, so you're waiting for it to get to this distance range. This preparation and finally does sort of around the 20-1 mark you'll probably get, and I think that's fair enough. So Skyboy probably around its right price. Even money, that seems fair. Solo Mission can improve. Morovi's the clear danger for mine. I'm throwing Red Knot in trifectas, and Highway is the absolute knockout horse up to this distance range for the first time. This preparation does have some solid ability when it's in the right mood. Race 7. Interesting race 7. Been a lot of money today for Dyslexic. I sort of doing this Betfair thing with Lays of the Day, and it's the horse I made the lay of the day. The reason for that being, it looks very likely that it'll be closer to last than first. Coruscate heads forward, gets a soft time of it. Gaulois should settle in the first few. Tip Top, so you've got 3 really strong conveyances going to settle in front of this horse, Dyslexic. Obviously it drops in grade, not too badly weighted with just the 55 kilos, but you've got Andy Adkins on board, who's really not winning races out of turn at the moment, and he's going to have to go past basically the whole field, which I don't think is an easy task, considering Gaulois a pretty good horse. Tip Top's only off a 7-week breaks, had a nice little trial in between, and back 100 metres. That's not a bad setup for this horse, and Coruscate's obviously flying this time in, so it's got to get past 3 pretty nice horses. Can I split those 3? I'd rather back Tip Top and Gaulois than Coruscate. I think they've got a bit of class on him. If they're close enough, they can probably get him. Just the thing Coruscate has in its favour is that it probably sets a slow tempo and has a nice enough turn of foot to hold them off like it did last start off a fast tempo. But these are a little bit classier types than it met last time. Is there enough meat in the bone to back both of them? Not yet. I could probably take $7 and $5 Tip Top to find out, but at the moment sort of $4.40, $4.60 and $6. We'll see what happens in the morning with the prices in race 7. Race 8. Not too many horses ideally set up here. Chauffeur's first up from 133 day breaks. No public trial. Crossover noseband on. We know he's got the ability. He's got an awkward draw and a wide gate, and he's first up over 1,100 metres. That doesn't worry me. Betting will be interesting with this horse. It's obviously got some solid class when it's in the mood. It's just a matter of whether it's back at its best or what's going on with Chauffeur. It's hard to tell without the trial. Boname's obviously trialled up okay. I didn't super get wrapped in its trial. Draws nicely. Obviously runs very well. I've got a Nell, gets the Queensland Apprentice, comes down to ride. Inside draw, but has some pace. Good, solid enough win last start, but nothing super exciting. And that last 100 metres, it was only 50 metres more than where it won last start, but that last 100's probably going to be interesting for this horse if it gets softened up at all in front, which looks likely. Virilio, first up, awkward draw, awkward jockey, can't have it. Seeking Glory, I thought it trialled quite well, sneaky trials. I just don't know where the heck it gets to from gate 10. Whether they go forward, back, what they do. If this horse needs a run, I'm a little bit scared of it. If it was double figures, I can entertain it, but probably $7 or $8 is the right price. Sedition ran really well first up, just unfortunately got the wrong horse on its back that tracked it through everywhere it went. Knocked up there and certainly can improve, gets a similar run each way chance. Argent Door will be back, suited by a fast tempo if that eventuates and can run home, but it never wins out of turn. Leo Gang's an interesting horse. I thought it ran better than I expected it would last start, and if it's got any more fitness improvement in it and it peaks now, it can run a race at odds with a lightweight 53 kilos. Rock and Ruger needs further than this for mine, even though it's trialled up within 10. I think it needs further. Nick on the run ideally wants 1,000 metres, 1,100 is a bit too far, but gate 1 gives it a chance to sort of poke up the inside and be dangerous late at 30s, can't knock it, and under the thumbs a really honest type, but from an awkward draw and on a dry track, I'm happy to, it's a 5 at the moment, I think it'll be upgraded and I'm happy to bet around it. So 2 major players are obviously Bonami and Sedition, big queries over the likes of Chauffeur, Seeking Glory, and I don't mind the look of Leo Gang as a horse. He's a pretty progressive type from a underrated stable, and they don't bring him to town usually unless they're going to run okay. So not a big knock on. I've got a Nell either who maps to get the right run and just needs to run the 11 out, 100 out strong. It's hard fit. Plenty of chances here. No real value in Bonami's price, no extreme value in Sedition's price, no value in any of the knockouts price considering the confidence level. So another pretty tricky race 8. Lucky Last, I'm worried about scratchings here. There's plenty of speed on paper in the last. And serious speed, we're talking Goldfinch.
Sure.
Hang on, Siri's just decided to check in. We're talking Goldfinch inside, Absolute Ripper outside, Brock Magic outside, and then Can't Find Slippy Fallerina kicking up inside. I don't think you'd ever see Strome, Smart Amelia anywhere near the speed here. Ellie's Encore certainly will be, and then you've got the likes of Montrachet, Seasons, all these horses trying to find runs sort of midfield and worse. I'd say there's a line of three, even though they're going to go quick. There'll be a three-wide train. Class-wise, I can only see two horses winning the race, Seasons and Montrachet, both first up. Whether they both line up here is going to be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if Seasons was scratched from the 13 gate with the apprentice aboard. I don't think Les really wants to give her a tough run first up. She trialled extremely well. She looks the winner if she goes around for mine, even with Rachel Hunt. I think she could sit 3 and 4 wide, no cover, and beat these. Montrachet, obviously a talented type. I can't believe they put $8 up. It's coming off Group form last preparation, Group 3-year-old form. Looks a real progressive type that trialled up well, and obviously the $8 is not around anymore. Went off mid through today, and $4.40 is the best available. It's the one to beat if Seasons doesn't arrive to this race. I thought Strome was the knockout at 70, 80 to 1, 80 to 1 now. I thought it's trialling up okay, and it's a pretty talented horse. I don't mind the wide gate for it. It's going to have to be ripping home down the outside. You don't want it sort of cluttered up on the inside and struggling to get a run. And the knockout to Smart Amelia. First up is in foal to Winning Rupert. Other runners that get the right run but do need everything to go their way are Ellie's Encore, Can't Find Slippy, and Sebring Express. Fallerina will be poking up there on the fence. I think sort of 900 or 1100 is a tough task for it. Going up in grade, even though it stays on the limit here. A good race. I think if Seasons lines up, it's the winner. If Montrachet lines up without Seasons, it'll be too short to back, considering just about every runner gets the right run that it wants here, apart from the on-speeders who look to get a little bit more pressure than they're happy with. So it's a tough race if Seasons doesn't line up. Tough program, really, but head to Flemington briefly. Race 1 had no real interest in. Alpassum was probably the horse to beat, but there could be too much pressure, even though it's only a small field, and not really too interested. Race 2's the bet of the day for me. I did send it out earlier. I think it was only $3.50. It's into $3.20 now, $3, $2.80, $3. This horse down in Rome, and I just love the setup for this horse. I thought it missed the run when it needed it on the turn last start against Lucky for All. The winkers go on. There's no speed in the race, so it should. I'd love it to be ridden by like Graceful Glamour was the other day. Come out with an intention to lead, really come out positively, and then try and stack them up and then take off. I think this horse will be winning. Obviously, Lucky for All's a talented horse. It's got some quirks, and I hope they come to the fore today to really make it hard for anything to run this horse down. The other horse that gets on speed, and if they do control it, is the Pinnacle. It's obviously ready to go now, 2:14 to 16 up to 18 last start, and now reaches the 2,000 metres. It's probably the other horse in the race I've got a little bit of interest in. Other than that, I probably want to be against the others off their setups and their current form. The top one scares the life out of me, like Kyrgyz. I know how good he is on his day, and just the 80 to 1 is a big price about a horse of its quality, even though it's sort of early in its preparation, only second up. Dan and Roman, clearly the horse to beat race 2 for me. Race 3, obviously Ring a Ding Ding comes off a nice run, and Yulong January looks to get up on speed and control things. It's all a matter of how much pressure it gets up front, and probably can take a sit from the soft draw anyway. Yulong January looks the horse to beat. Ring a Ding Ding looks to get back well in the race, and it's well and truly well enough found for me around the $3 mark. Not a race I'm interested in anyway. Race 4. Race 4 is another race I do have good interest in. Okay, so the horse I thought always looked likely to run well in this race was Parast. Its lead-up run 2 starts ago was incredible. Last start they stretched it to the mile. They kind of had to have a go at the mile, and he didn't run it out. He over-raced terribly, set up a suicidal tempo, and wasn't really knocked about late. So I wouldn't really like a run like that on a 7-day backup. too often, but knowing this horse quite well and knowing that he's a tough on pacer, and he finds a race where he does look like he can probably, cross Classic Uniform and get to the fence first. I doubt a horse like Dreamforce or Dollar for Dollar wants to press the tempo, and neither should Classic Uniform, and that really should, or Good Project, so that really should allow Parast hopefully to settle better in front, and he can kick on when he gets that sort of dictating tempo. I think that the closest horses to him in the run are the dangers in Dollar for Dollar and Dreamforce. I thought Dreamforce's run was very, very good against it, Parast, and I don't mind the 3 weeks between runs for him, staying at the 1400. If he can cheaply get across a few of these runners early and slot in behind, and possibly Dollar for Dollar or something like that comes and gives him cover and he's cuddled, I think Damien Lane will have learnt a lot from riding this horse now, and he should know him. He's a horse I've got plenty of time for, and I think he's the main danger. Dollar for Dollar next pick, and then Allman was good first up, basically given no chance in the run. Really worked home well against the pattern late. Obviously pace assisted, but didn't matter. It was a good effort. Age of Fire is a dangerous horse second up with some solid New Zealand form. Widgie Turf obviously very honest, but quite short around the $4.40 mark, even though it draws a soft gate. Good race. I think Parast is the one at around the $10 mark that could be extremely hard to beat. I wouldn't be surprised if he tailed off as well, considering the run he had last start and the start before that, but he's such a tough horse. I think if he's allowed to dictate up from the front, he could take all sorts of getting past, and Dreamforce is the one that'll have the sit on him and should run well also. Queen Elizabeth Stakes Race 5, no real interest at all. Jamia, obviously the one to beat. I love that Prince of Varan form, and didn't have a lot of luck there on the inside last start. Matriarch Stakes was again really tough for me. Just commenting on the race itself, I thought Aloisi was a hard one to really work out how it went last start. Savvy Coup was in the Cox Plate, which is obviously a mile harder than this, and drops considerably back in grade. I don't know where it gets to from the gate, and that's my worry. There's no real speed on paper, as you can see. You've got Miss Siska rolling forward, Silent Roar, and then where the hell does all the speed come from? So I don't know what happens with Savvy Coup. Where it gets to in the run is an absolute nightmare. So if you sort of go off this and Aloysia crosses, whatever horse takes the initiative to sort of get into the first few, he's going to run well, and that's enough to put me off. I think Savvy Coup's got a decent class edge on these horses, but tactics are a nightmare in this race. And when we're talking down to sort of horses like Natoya All Too Soon, Temple of Bell was good last start, but it's a nightmare horse. Gets back gate 14. Aquadavine is rushing through the grades in Sydney, but raises sharply to a Group 2 2,000 metres set weights race. Geez, it's tough. It's not a race I don't want to lose any sleep over. I definitely doubt I'll be betting unless I have something tiny on Savvy Coup. If they came out and said they were going to head forward on it, maybe, but yuck. This VRC Sprint Classic Race 7 is one of the races of the Carnival. I think it's every bit as good as an Everest. Obviously, Scholes is probably the only horse missing. Trapeze Artist as well, but it's a great looking race. I can't understand the extreme backing for Rosehill into $3.60. I thought it looks to get enough pressure here to from Invincible Star and just the pack up towards the outside that it'll probably have to work. You've got Jungle Cat, US Navy Flag. If they jump, they'll be heading forward. I know he's a bulletproof horse, Rosehill, but he's just certainly got to be under fire here. You've got so many closers. You've got Santa Ana Lane up the inside, Redkirk Warrior first up, drawn outside it, Jungle Cat heading forward from an inside draw, PRR obviously a classy type that'll be strong late, Kementari flashing late, Spirit of Valor looking for a spot up on the speed you'd expect from that solid draw. US Navy Flag obviously needs to jump and looking for a similar run. Time will be back there, and it's a quality mare when right. Sprite will be flashing down the outside, and Invincible Star will be kicking up from the inside. So I think it's a great race. I sort of thought Kementari was the horse to beat. If it's ridden stone cold here, it'll absolutely be zooming home. Sprite draws the right gate at the big odds to be the value runner of the race. Santa Ana Lane's super scary, so Spirit of Valor and US Navy Flag for mine. I think they're quality runners. I'm betting around Rosehill. I don't want to lay it, that's for sure. It's not a horse you would ever want to lay. It's just got too many positives. But I'm betting around it here. I really do think Kementari's all out the horse to beat. I'm talking $7 about that, and that seemed nearly takeable. But it's not a race I want to empty my bank in. It's just sort of one for multis. I think you could play some small multis into Kementari and Sprite possibly, if you're that way inclined. It's not a race to have super confidence about, and we do get a look. And we don't get a look down the straight. It's the only straight race, so we won't get to see what the track's doing. But the rail's obviously at 8 metres, and the way the track raced on Thursday, you'd expect them to be coming down the grandstand side, dominantly down the grandstand side. You'd be surprised if anything stayed on the flat. So, good race. I really do think the value's in Kementari and Sprite, and I'm really scared of the two UK runners in Spirit of Valor and more importantly US Navy Flag, who's really had excuses, and it's getting out to odds where you can speculate on it around the $14, $15 mark. If it jumps, I'd be expecting it to run one heck of a race, even though it's been a little disappointing at its 2 Australian runs to date. Race 8. Blair House, 2 runs, both full of merit. This is the McKinnon. Stuck on the fence there first start in the race, and then first start in Australia, got out, ran well late, then looked all over the winner last start before Ben Battle fought back and just was a little bit too tough. Draws inside, which is tricky. Could obviously kick up this time out to 2,000 metres, but if it gets, it has had the 2,000 metre run, but if it does get back and on the inside, that's probably a query against it. Dangers of Latrobe's obviously one that's really interesting. 55 days since seen, coming back significantly in distance, was supposed to be going to the Melbourne Cup, had a little setback, now shows up for the McKinnon. How the heck do you line it up? It's the horse that stops me wanting to have any interest in betting in the race at all. The 3-year-olds I'm not too worried about. Down the bottom, Mickey Blue Eyes should be shorter than Extra Brute for mine, so I'd be probably swapping them in the market. Shillelagh's an interesting horse, obviously going extremely well. Great ride last start to beat the mares, but there were a bunch of unlucky runners. Doubt Defiant airborne, but absolutely horrifically weighted. 5 kilos, it's going up into weight for age grade off a handicap win. Is anything else going well enough to beat these horses? Probably not. So Blair House is the obvious. If it has its chance, it'll be in the finish you'd expect, and Latrobe's the only one who has form superior to it. But obviously not set for this. It's an afterthought race, and whether they can get it right on the day, coming off what looked like a Melbourne Cup prep back to a McKinnon prep. They're great trainers, and I'm sure they've done similar before. We're talking Joseph O'Brien, Aidan O'Brien's son. Tough race to work out. I'm not going to chime into $1.90 Blair House, so no interest in the race. The last is impossible, not even going to try. If you're coming there and you need to get out, not like Wednesday where we had a bit of luck with the horse falling in, but probably Saver was more unlucky than the winner was lucky to win. So we were due a little bit of luck there. So it's not an easy day. I'll go through Newcastle as well. I'll be at the non-tabs tomorrow at Tabulum, the only meeting of the year there. I can't really help anyone with form or getting on there, so it's no real point talking about that meeting. But I'll come through with any updates in the morning if there's anything significant happens, and betting and sheets and everything will go out as normal in the morning. Good luck, guys.